allow me to introduce to everyone a step-by-step guide on how I suggest people build a $1 million crypto portfolio. Now, the really beautiful thing about what I'm about to show you is that anyone can do it. It's not complicated, doesn't require you to go out and learn anything. You can use the information provided to you in this video to literally apply this to any sort of cryptocurrency project or projects and therefore create a portfolio. Now, I want to make something very, very clear to everyone. If you are looking for a video where I take you through all the technical details and actually give you guys exact prompts, what to look for, and a whole A to Z guide on what I actually do when I look at cryptocurrency projects, well, do not worry. Yes, this video isn't for you, but I'm coming out with one of those videos in no more than a few more days, so hang in tight, and until then, let's get into this particular step-by-step guide. But I still want to make it very clear that what I'm going to share with you today is more than like 99% of other people will actually share with you and show you on what to do. But I will be 100% transparent and say this is particularly tailored to someone who doesn't have hours every day to spend researching cryptocurrencies, which I'm going to take that most of you are, okay? This is going to give you all you need to know though. Okay, so yes, this video is actually off the back of a previous video I did where I kind of went over the importance of actually having a really sound portfolio moving into 2025, particularly the bull market, because honestly, guys, if you're not taking as much profits off the table as you possibly can at that point in time for this here, the fallout of 2025, well, I believe the world is going to be a whole different place come the next bull market, if that even happens. And so I believe that you really do need to be looking to diversify yourself at that point in time. So it's critical we get this right and ASAP, okay? So we're pretty much tailoring things to here. Now, again, I don't actually want to go through this. Again, I've got a whole video breaking this down, but what I do mention is kind of what I'm going to be touching on today, except obviously when I did make this video, it was a lot less detail. And this is pretty much what we'll be covering, but again, a lot more detail plus a lot more. So again, we're talking about what we're pretty much doing there. Now, what's my goal with this video? It's to show you what it takes to build a portfolio in crypto capable of creating $1 million or obviously more. And as I say, these are the most 5 important steps, okay? So if you're gonna do 5 things at all, it's definitely gonna be these 5 things when you're creating a portfolio. And I'm gonna obviously explain to you step by step how it works. So number 1, the first and most important thing you have to do, and I can't say this enough, is do your prep work, okay? Again, it might require you sitting in a silent room with a pen and paper, for God's sake, for 10, 15 minutes, maybe lock on the door for an hour. It doesn't matter, it's up to you. The first thing you gotta do, right, layer 0 is what is the capital you currently have to start with? Is it 4K, 1K, nothing, 10K? What is it, right? It's your pot of cash. Then how much can you afford to DCA per week? Again, this is something that you'll have to use a budget calculator. I've made one on my channel, which you can go through and actually work out your expenses, how much you're getting. You might be surprised, maybe you're losing money every week and you don't know it, okay? So you need to do that, figure out how much you can not just DCA per week, but obviously how much money you have out of your paycheck left to spend, and obviously you don't want to be putting all that in crypto. That's quite crazy, so you got to work it out from there, okay? And what time frame can you invest in on a weekly, fortnightly, monthly basis? Actually, before you go any further, guys, I want to say this is free to use and view, okay? I want to have you guys be able to access this for free. I don't want to charge you for this, so the link will be right at the top of the description. But let's move on. So layer 1, what do we do next, right? Well, what we do is we need to figure out your risk appetite. How much can you afford to lose of your layer 0 or what you're putting in and putting in over time, okay? Is it nothing? You can't afford to lose anything. You're on a tight ship. Or is it 100%? Is it 40%? But what you need to do is then think to yourself, what can I really afford to lose here? If you actually think and you put yourself in a position of, okay, I just lost all my money. What do you feel? If you really put yourself in those shoes, if you feel a feeling of dread, you need to mark that back to a point where you don't feel anything. You're fine with it, okay? If that means 0, like lose nothing, then that's what you have to do, but you must chart it, right? So low risk, low reward. If you're someone who doesn't want to lose a single penny, what you got to do is go completely in the low risk, low reward section, right? So it's very, very low risk. Nothing's no risk, by the way, but on the contrary, you're getting no or limited rewards, okay? It's definitely diminished. And when I say low rewards in crypto speak, that's like, yeah, a 3 to 5, 10x. In normal speak, that's like 20%. So we're still getting the good end of the stick here. But in terms of crypto and in terms of actually profiting your most, in terms of 2025, then yeah, it's not the most, okay? And then you'll go through, right? If you're someone who can lose everything, you might be higher risk, extremely high reward, okay? If you can lose 100%, well, you might want to go here and find the, projects in this category, which we'll get to in a second, pretty much microcap projects, right? So once you've done layer 1 and layer 0, you're going to come to layer 2, which is locate the projects within those particular risk categories. And like I said, this does vary, okay, because the market caps and the global market cap will always fluctuate, but for the most part, it's your low risk, low reward, are pretty safe with Bitcoin and Ethereum, okay? So around the 100 billion plus market cap levels. We can then move on to low risk, medium reward. That's the next tier down, which is like your top 50 basically, or top 100 in a way. At least it'll be top 100 in pretty much a bull market situation, which is like XRP, Cardano, Stellar, so on and so forth. And then you come over here, right? So medium risk, high reward. So this is kind of like where most people tend to sit, which is like your top 300 or $100 million market caps to 1 billion. And then your higher risk to extremely high reward. And this is anything below $100 million market cap. So Energy Web Token, Affinity, Covalent, and Saito, right? But essentially you can mix and match, right? If you're someone who wants to have a 50% risk to reward ratio, well, essentially, you could just go right in the middle here, okay? It all depends on what you're looking for, but once you do that, that's the most important thing of anything you're going to see today, because you will look for projects within those risk categories, and it's going to make sense in just a second. But layer 3 is we can begin locating these projects based on the 2025 demand. That's important to remember, not 2030, 2050, 2100, right? We're looking for 2025 demand, so spend a minimum, in my opinion, 3 to 5 days researching up to one project, okay, up to 1 week. And if you really lack the time, this is what I would do. So this is what I would essentially tell people to do. Again, not financial advice, right? If you do lack the time, if you can't spend 3 to 5 days or up to a week researching, right? Now, again, as I said in here, the video that really gets into the actual processes on what I would do from the team, right, to the advisors, all the way to tokenomics, so on and so forth, that's going to be released in a few more days. That video I'm really excited for because it's pretty much going to be like an exact prompt for you guys to actually go through. If yes, do this. If no, do this. It's going to be awesome, right? So here's what I would do. And this is the most important thing is, right, finding the narratives that are going to actually be good in 2025, right? And this is important because we're not looking for narratives that are going to be good in 2030 or 2035. I definitely do, but definitely scale back here, okay? We definitely want to make, most of our profits in 2025. So here's what I've done. I've kind of located, and this is not all, but a lot of the narratives that are going to be kind of interesting, or at least most people are kind of know pretty well, right? Right from layer 1, layer 2, interop, privacy, tokenization, payments, cloud infrastructure, Oracle, right down to IoT, NFTs. Now, I've put the ones that I don't think are going to cut it in 2025. And I just want to say, before I say any more about this is subjective, 100%. This is not objective. There's no clear guide into what's going to actually pop off in 2025. This is my subjective, aka my opinion on the sort of the demand and how important these are going to be in 2025. Now, I could argue with people or go back and forth all day. I'm going to have people down below saying, dude, DeFi is going to be a 10 out of 10, aka there's going to be heaps of demand. Dude, decentralized social should be at least a 9. I've got my reasons for not actually putting these in that place. A lot of these will actually probably do really well in the later years. Not saying these are dead narratives, but this is my rating. 10 is like, this is going to do really well. Definitely going to have like its whole run. A 5 is like, probably will, but I'm not going to bet on it. A 1 is like, okay, this is going to be horrible, right? So yeah, as we can see, I'm not going to go through this, guys. It's going to take up way too much time for the video. The video is not designed to be half an hour long. You can all read it for yourselves, but essentially interop, privacy, Oracle, gaming are pretty much the top ones in this case. Okay, that might shock some of you. We have layer 1, layer 2, we have tokenization, and we have metaverse and storage up there as well. 9s and 8s, and it just moves down from there. I've pretty much crossed off anything 6 and under. Okay, and so what we've done here, though, this is the second most important thing, is we must find projects because, again, we're trying to extract the most amount of value from these projects in 2025. We want to find the ones that hit multiple narratives. You see Render Network, for example. Render took off in the AI narrative. But in my opinion, Render doesn't have too much to do with AI, okay? A lot of these networks are going to have some sort of AI involved with them in one way or another very, very soon, okay? They're all upgrading because it just benefits the network greatly, right? So they all do like little bits of this and that, but obviously we want to find the ones that it really tackles here, and the more it can compound, the better. But as we'll get to in a second with market penetration, it does become harder. So I'll use the example of layer 1s that do tokenization, payments, gaming, and etc. We call these general purpose blockchains or networks, okay? They do pretty much everything. And as we shall know, their general purpose, that's good, they do everything, right? But kind of like the jack of all trades thing, master of none, Well, obviously it's harder to actually get into like the prominent position, the number one spot for that. And I don't really think there is a number one spot right now. Matter of fact, if there is, it's all like the enterprise private networks outside of crypto. So we can see some of the lists here, okay? So Hedera, Solana, Cardano, and then we can start to mix and match, right? So for layer one, just interoperability, right? We have Moonbeam, Aster, Carver, and I know it gets kind of messy with all these bloody strings over here, but you guys can see they're color-coded depending on what the narrative is. So layer one's green, interoperability's red, and so on and so forth. So we can kind of come down here. I don't want to spend too much time on this. That's why I didn't build this out, but let me know down below if you want to build this out like in a full comprehensive manner. I can definitely do that for you guys. And so we go on, right? Layer one privacy networks, Amina, Oasis, LF0. We have layer one tokenization and payments, right? Prime example, that's Ripple and Stellar. But I gave one example here of just a project that strictly focused on one. Now, I'm not to say that, you know, if a project focuses on one narrative, it's bad, right? You want to focus on at least 2, 3, 4 narratives within one project, right? But again, just like the jack of all trades thing, master of none, sometimes being the master of one is better than being the master of all. And that's the case with projects like reserve rights, okay? And in this case, you can be the master of one particular narrative and do it really, really well because you have a better time to penetrate that market, just like reserve is being actually used in some South American countries right now. Okay, so I just wanted to make that distinction. Again, it depends every single situation. We're going to get to kind of this bit in a second. So if you are kind of a bit confused, like, okay, well, what's a good one narrative focused project and what's like one that's like maybe not as good, and what's the difference between one that is and one that's like got everything going for it that actually is doing really well. Again, we're going to get to that in just a minute, right? And again, we can just mix and match here all day, right? Oracle interoperability, that's Chainlink with their new upgrade coming out in gaming, metaverse, Decentraland, Sandbox. This can go on forever. Obviously, the higher the scores, the better, and you can actually rank this yourself, right? Again, these scores are going to change for every single person, but that's my interpretation at least, okay? So penetration. This is important. This is going to kind of clarify what we've got going on so far. So the prosperity wheel helps us remember where the project fits inside the global market. That's obviously the world, right? Web 2 and Web 3 combined. If a project is Web 3 degen, which is over down here, right? And focus in a 2025 high demand narrative, aka they are in a high demand narrative over here, like they're a 9, 10, or an 8 out of 10, this should be primed for large launch at some stage. So what I'm saying here is, with the prosperity wheel, the further in you go, the faster the ROI. And I've gone through this 100 times on the channel. Essentially, this is the kind of wheel I've created that kind of depicts how a project might take a long time to get established itself in a particular market, for example, and you know how easy that might be on the contrary. So for example, Web3 specific networks, degen related things, meme coins, DeFi related things, anything involved with this new Web3 environment, they have a higher chance to shoot up because it's the Web3 space. Everyone's a bit of a degen. But the further out you go, right up to Web3 solutions active in the real world right now, the harder it is for these projects to penetrate because they have to form connections with real people, real enterprises, and most likely beat true tried and tested existing solutions, okay? So yes, the further out you go, the more powerful though, right? So it's more powerful because once it establishes network effects and finds product market fit, which means it's just pretty much well known to the world, essentially it's going to be unstoppable and beat all the Web3 degen stuff. But what I'm essentially saying in this case is, if you match like a highly spruced up sort of narrative, Web3 degen-esque things, and then you combine that with something like a 2025 demand, right? So it's like, let's just say down here, gaming and metaverse, where we've got metaverse as a 9 out of 10, and you've got gaming over here being a 10 out of 10, and these projects are Web3 degen, they have a really high chance of definitely sprucing up in 2025. On the contrary, right, if we go with Quant Network, for example, Quant Network's on the outer ring, takes longer time to establish, then yes, you know, it's going to take a little bit longer, but as long as they're in like a good narrative and they have connections being formed, as in which they are right now with the real world, then yeah, it's going to have a really good chance to blow up in 2025 because it's got a good meme, all right? But let's go on to the contrary over here, and let's just clarify it. Now, if it's solving a Web 2 thing, active now, again, down the bottom here, Web 2 solution, active now, and in a 2025 low demand narrative, this could mean it might not blow up, so-called, in 2025, but still be a quality project plus 2025. So again, if it's like out on the outer ring here, let's just say Render Network, okay, and it's in a very low narrative, let's just say Render Network associated with IoT. IOTA, for a perfect example here, Well, in the IoT section, it's a 4 out of 10. It's in the outer green market, so outer green ring. Therefore, that means, hey, maybe this is going to take longer to establish. It might be a good narrative in 2030. It might be a 10 out of 10. And it might be, product market fit or have a good come 2030 plus. But as terms of 2025, no. That's what I'm kind of saying here. We must kind of use both of these things to analyze where the project's focusing its time, energy, and resources. And if that's going to be a good sort of market coming into 2025. Remember, guys, that's only like what? 1.5 years away. So nothing crazy is going to happen between now and then. So we must think about kind of almost the environment that's happening right now. Will it happen in 2025? So that's kind of where those scores and things came from. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I understand if that's a little bit hard to grasp. So if you need me to, I can definitely make or clarify that again in a future video, right? So guys, the larger the size of the market and the amount of competition must be factored in here, okay? And then what we can essentially do is just pretty much minus the connections the network or protocol has in that market, okay? Which will offset the sort of the competition, if you will. So again, we have to factor in many different things here, but this is what I strongly believe is the most important thing to look for in 2025. This essentially is the narrative mixed in with the meme, okay? Essentially is what we're doing here, which is like two of the most important things when finding a project, irrespective of the time frame. And so once we've kind of started figuring out our projects, okay, we've overlapped, we've found the most important projects that are kind of combined as much as possible or are penetrating the markets the best, okay? We can then look at sell levels first. Why the hell do we look at sell levels before buy levels? Let me explain, right? So again, I'll locate the sell levels first, as this will require somewhat of a price prediction, making locating buy levels easier. So we look at this because if we can understand where our minimum and maximum price predictions are, and if we're invested in, let's just say Hedera Hashgraph, because that's the upcoming example, and we're like, okay, we want a minimum 10x with Hedera. If at the buy levels we believe or we want to get at, or at least the current price, will not reach a 10x at a minimum expected price prediction, then we either go, okay, well, we'll just set lower price targets here. We won't buy in until we hit those because we know we're not going to get a 10x, or we just find a new project. It's just as simple as that. And so this refines it very, very simply because most of us are in crypto for a return, okay? So we kind of go through this method. Again, we're kind of running out of time here, but I'll just run through it very briefly, right? These are slides I've made in a whole previous video. So if you want to, I'll leave the link to this video in the description down below. So there's 4 things we've got to look at to find the price prediction, right? So year-to-date difference, vesting and emissions, market dominance, and important upgrades. The important upgrades are there to help maybe bolster up the possible price prediction, okay? So number one, is it time to buy now? We have to ask ourselves this, right? And so what I typically do here is go back to the year-to-date and just when Bitcoin was at its lowest price, right? $16,500 within the last few years, and just figure out what that price was at that point and how far up we are now, okay? So 1.5x up for HBAR is actually too bad. A lot of projects are up a lot more than just 1.5x from that point in time. And so then we can begin, okay, maybe it is a good time to buy. We just get a feel for the market essentially. But the next thing we do is figure out, look at the vesting schedule, right? And figure out where the, circulating supply will be in 2025, typically mid to late 2025 if you can. Now, this isn't a screenshot of Hedera's vesting schedule and emission sheet. This is from Mina Protocol, but you get the idea here, okay? So you might go, okay, well, 36 months from mainnet is going to be, around 2025. You go up, you go across. Okay, what's it going to be at about 1.1 billion tokens? Okay, so then we can factor that in, right? So the next step 3, is we can actually start to figure out a formula here to finding the price, right? So we can find the vesting and emissions, which is what we divide by the market dominance, okay? But we need to find the market dominance, or at least the market cap in terms of what it will be at that same point in time, which is the hard part. It's like trying to look through a crystal ball, right? It's pretty impossible. So there's 2 things we have to assume here. Number one is a pretty generic thing, and that's the market cap, what it will be like at that point in time, which I think most people can generally come to consensus about $5 to $10 trillion. It really does depend. It's still going to be made up mostly of retail speculation or curiosity, just like it always has been, but we'll have hints of institutional and national demand coming through, okay? And assumption 2, we have to dive into the project's market dominance chart, okay? So what's the market dominance? What was it before at its previous all-time high? What is it now? If it's broken away like Hedera has in this example here, okay, we've been starting to go, maybe it'll break away again, coming up into the 2025 bull market. So what I've done in this case is I've taken the previous all-time high, right? The dominance that it was over here. This is the price, by the way, in this sort of pinkish color. So the dominance is in purple, and it was 0.25%. So what I've done here is taken the global market cap, which is a $10 trillion, and multiplied that by 0.25%, which comes to $25 billion. So what I'm essentially saying here is if the global market cap goes to 10 trillion, I'm going to say Hedera is going to, honor the previous, as long as it obviously continues to follow that sort of trend, the previous all-time high, which was 0.25% market dominance, which means, again, that's $25 billion. And then we can pretty much divide that by the expected vesting schedule, which gives us a price of 69 cents. So if you hear me talk about my minimum price levels for Hedera being 69 cents, now you know why, okay? And on the contrary, this is kind of the hard part, right? This is where we have to kind of think about what could possibly go really good or right for Hedera in this time frame, which I've kind of skipped over here, is where we look at the important events, right? So what is it in its roadmap? What is coming up? What has been spoken about that's going to be developed on Hedera between now and, late to mid 2025? And this can help us go, okay, well, maybe the market dominance, instead of being 0.25%, might go up to X. Now, be very conservative in this case. I've kind of gone like in the world, like Mickey Mouse, world's best case, 2%. It definitely won't get to 2%, but you just never really know with Hedera, okay? So again, 2% of $10 trillion is 200 billion. That's quite a lot, right? I think we can all agree on that. So again, you factor in or you divide that by the circulating supply at the time, and that's how we get the price of $5.50. It's just simple math, right? And then so what I tell people then is just to plot that, okay? So again, we're looking to sell levels. So this green line right here, this is the current price action. This green line is the 69 cent level. We also plot the $5.50 level, okay? And then we go, okay, well, so if we bought in at 0.05 cents or in 5 cents, okay, right now, what will that get to at the minimum? Well, okay, it's a 12x. So do we think Hedera can actually get to a 12x? If yes, if it's going to be easy in your opinion, well, then we can start to take profits there, like I've shown with the example here, ladder selling at the specific levels. But if, in most cases, you're going to say, well, maybe not, I'm not too confident. Well, if you're still happy with the price of the project, you might want to actually start buying in now, but you might start taking profits on the way up at key resistance and support levels. It's as simple as that, okay? Simple as that. And if this isn't appealing to you, if you're like, okay, well, 12x ain't enough, I want at least a 20x at a H-bar, and you move this, market down, you might want to start buying at 0.02 cents. And if you're like, that's not going to actually happen, that's unfeasible, then you go to a different project. If you're in love with Hedera and you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can definitely hope for the best, but this is a proven strategy, okay? You kind of don't want to be in love with the projects. Now, the last thing I'm going to have to do here, again, the last most important thing is locate buy levels, right? Locating buy levels can be difficult as it does depend on the project and your personal ROI expectations. Now, typically, I'll do the following, okay? So what I'll do is hit the last 12, hit all rather on CoinMarketCap and find pretty much the channels from the previous cycle. As we can see here, it doesn't have to be the very top or the very bottom, but just on average, what's kind of, where was it mostly trading between? And then we kind of plot that all the way across. And as long as we're in these two lines, that's already a very good sign. Then I'll click the year marker and I'll do the same thing, okay? Right, we're not trying to find the tops or the exact bottoms, but as long as it's kind of like, following somewhat similar, resistance or support levels, we can then plot these sort of lines. Again, it's very important because the last 12 months were pretty much the bear market up until now, okay? So this gives us a good indication of where it's been traveling, in respects to the last 12 months, and also, as we know now, before the last, since inception, basically, right? And as we can see, we fit inside both channels and are actually in similar ranges to that of 2021. So this, to me, is good. We're in good buy levels. So what I'll then do is find buy levels at support levels, resistance levels, or just before whole numbers, and then I'll just plot these down, right? And what I'll sometimes do is just actually go on any sort of platform I'm using at the time to purchase or have, USDT or whatever on, and I'll just set buy levels. Set and forget, done, you're set, okay? But make sure you're constantly revisiting this and looking into it again, okay? So you want to ensure that the buy levels match your minimum expected ROI from this coin, again, with this information over here from the price prediction / sell levels. And if you're buying at 40 cents, 35 cents, and 30 cents, for example, means that, again, a 10x to your minimum price prediction isn't doing it, right? You want a 20x, for example. You'll need to find another altcoin or just pretty much set lower buy levels. So you'll just come down and set lower buy levels if it's obviously within reason, okay? Now, again, guys, we kind of had to rush through that. We're running out of time, but I hope that's made a lot of sense to everyone. And again, you have access to the sheet for free, so please take full advantage of it. Use it. I've made it for you, okay? And with that said, remember guys, I have a video coming out with my A to Z, like really breaking down exactly the strategy and process in terms of vetting projects particularly. All right guys, take good care. Talk to you soon. Bye.